When I'm out here during the summer, my friends, my neighbors come by and they'll watch for a while. It's very nice. My iPod is my most prized possession. I get all my music from basically the public library. And my cassettes go even farther back, and I've just never really thrown them away, but I certainly don't really listen to them anymore. You know, I listen to a lot of different kinds of music. Today, a lot of music has a very simplistic melody. I like a cappella, I like classic rock and roll, I like Western music, not country, but Western music. You know, about the cowboy and the rodeo, that kind of music. So when I was 10 years old, my dad and two of my uncles took a class, an adult class in stained glass. My father had bought the tools and supplies, so at the age of 11, I started teaching myself with getting started by my uncle, but the method I use today is what I came up with pretty much on my own. I was destined to go to med school. I was a microbiology major in college. I was already making stained glass all the time and as a summer job. And so I thought I'll do stained glass professionally for a year. And I've always loved it, and I just never went back. And I struggled before the internet. There were times I worked a second job because I struggled to make enough money at stained glass. Yeah, I'd love to show these off because they are pretty cool. My parents used to say, "Oh, Mark, go get your latest thing and show these people." It was also difficult for them because they were frightened from the first moment that I would make a career out of this. They wanted the best for me, and they were convinced, without really knowing, but still very sure of the fact that I would struggle all my life if I chose art over medicine. I've never had an art class in my life. I mean, I've studied enough about art on my own that I'm able to design for my clients, but I couldn't sketch a face if my life depended on it. So I'm kind of a one-trick pony. Not exactly. Okay. For me, the internet was a real savior because my work went from local to national. One morning, about 20 years ago, I got a phone call from an Air Force architect. I met with them at about noon, and by 12:30, I had a $100,000 commission, which I completed in 6 months. The scale of it was a challenge. It was 47 windows, large windows. It's in the main chapel at the Chapel Center at Buckley Air Force Base in Aurora. I just like to say, I submitted 13 designs. They picked the one I liked the least. I can see that's going to be the problem. Stained glass can be very frustrating. A ball of clay, you can pull it out 1,000 times on the wheel until you learn how to do it. But stained glass is expensive. The materials, the glass, etc., is expensive. And once you scratch a line on the glass, there's no taking it away. There's no going back. There are a number of moments that are better than others. Grinding is drudgery. Working with the clients is definitely one of the high points. Putting in the windows is definitely one of the high points when you stand back and you're impressed by your own creation, and your client is equally, aghast at how great it comes out. This is gonna go in the front door of this home in Houston. And stained glass grabs a lot of people because it's colorful and it's got the light, the play of light that's coming through the glass. There's a lot about art that I don't know. I know what I like. I spent lots of hours in the library looking at art books. Up there in the window, you can see what I started making when I was 11. The butterfly, the skier, little sun catchers. I was captivated by it immediately. I consider myself extremely lucky that I make my living at basically this hobby that I took up when I was 10 years old, that I fell in love with. How did I become who I am? And really, it's so circumstantial. If my dad hadn't taken this class, I never would have touched a glass cutter in my whole life, I'm sure. And I love my life. I never set an alarm clock, and I never drive rush hour traffic. You know, it's been so rewarding, the work that I do for people and the life that I live because of it.